Here we go. I heard that whistle blow and she's coming round the bend. Yeah, here we go. All aboard, my friends. Good to see you all again. We'll be driving to the pouring rain. We'll be driving away all your pain. Look out, here comes a music train. Here we go. Yeah, I heard that whistle blow and she's coming round the bend. Here we go. All aboard, my friends. Good to see you back again. We'll be driving to the pouring rain. Driving away all your pain. Look out, here comes the music train. Music train.
Welcome everybody to the Music Train. Season 7, episode 1 is finally here. We're super stoked to be here with our amazing guest today, the one and only Tony Parisi. He and I met on X. He's done everything. I mean, he's an investor, an author, a musician. He is a huge hero in Web3. If you don't know what Web3 is, we're going to get into that. Thank you to all of our sponsors. Thank you to all of the viewers. Let us know where you're tuning in from. Shout out to X, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and everywhere where this show is streaming. We really appreciate your support. Shout out to our sponsors, Lightwater Scientific and Virtuality Magazine out of Brazil. Let's get this started. Tony Parisi, welcome to the Music Train.
Hey, Vessi, good to see you. It's been a minute. Thanks for having me on the show. I'm really excited to chat with you.
Super excited to have you here. The first time I met you, Tony, I believe was in Mela B Spaces for her Wednesday where you promote your music.
Yeah, that was great because the people get together, they share their music, they celebrate their music. And in our case, my case with Mela, and I think you and me, in our case, we absolutely fell in love with each other's music.
Yes.
It started there. And then, we found out we're good people and we wanted to work on some things together. But it came together because it was those X spaces are like coffee houses, right?
Aren't they?
You're hanging out, sharing your music and getting to know people. It's fabulous. Yeah.
I love it. I don't know what I would do without it. I mean, it started on Clubhouse. I don't know if you were on Clubhouse, but you
A
know,
little
and
bit, but I really got into it with X. Yeah.
yeah, same here. I guess my first question, Tony, is, what was it, the memory, if you could attach it to a song or a memory or nostalgia back in the day when you were a young man? I'm talking about like single digits. What was it about music? How did it visit you?
Well, I was actually born into it. So
Okay.
my earliest memory is 3 or 4 years old at the piano stool on my dad's side. He was a working musician. So I grew up in music and
Oh,
immersed in it.
nice.
And it wasn't long before I was playing piano or taking lessons on various random instruments. Thankfully, my dad was a jazz and pop guy, so he didn't subject me to like making me take violin lessons or something that would scare me off. And it wasn't classical piano. So I learned some pop piano. And I can give you the whole litany of all the instruments I went through as I started getting older and, through adolescence, through everything. But yeah, it really started with playing piano. And
How old were you?
my dad's
Sorry.
3 or 4 years old.
Wow.
I mean, at the least remembering at his side. And then, as you get to be, 4 and 5 years old, nursery school, kindergarten age, anyone who's taken music lessons at that age, you go through like the simple, like reading a little music and learning. That was all on piano. So I always grew up with it. So there was no sort of siren call or something that brought me to it. I actually was born into it.
Nice.
Like a lot of people who, have an aha moment they can remember maybe when they're a little younger as well. Yeah. For me, it's always been in my life.
Yeah. Same for me. Music is such a connector, a unifier. And I think it's becoming more and more apparent, especially through Web3. I'd love to hear you define that for people who have never heard the concept or the idea of Web3. Some people say, hey, it's just the internet. Like, okay, we keep evolving here. What would you say to that, to Web3, a definition? Can you give us one?
Yes. It's just the internet. I mean, just like StreamYard is in every piece of media where we're all connecting and communicating. But I'd say there's some defining things about Web3 that make it different from the stuff that was happening in the web up until 4 or 5 years ago. The introduction of digital currency with crypto, with decentralized technologies of blockchain, enable an internet where folks can better own their stuff, whether it's digital assets or, again, the digital money they have. So that's fundamentally different because the Web 2 era was kind of typified by the larger companies like Facebook and Amazon creating kind of walled communities on top of what was, effectively a chaotic and very open technology when the internet finally hit consumers. That was like Wild West in Web 1. And Web 2, it all kind of got locked down by the big companies. And so I think a big part of the ethos of Web 3 is that everyone can own their own stuff, whether it's their own web server again, instead of, going to somebody else.
Yeah.
Or their own digital goods like music NFTs, which you and I know a lot about. We create digital music and we actually sell it to people.
Right.
Notion to anyone who's come up for the last 20 years and been used to stealing their music, with a file sharing service or a torrent, stealing their media, or then, going to the streaming services where everybody gets, basically it's not a la carte anymore. They get all you can eat.
Right. Right.
$10 a month or ad supported, which is great for the listening experience.
Totally.
That's good for us artists. It's a lot harder for us to get paid than it used to be.
Right. You would think that there would be an artist stipend kind of like parlayed into a monthly that would, I don't know, it would be pretty cool.
Back in the day,
right?
if you put your music up and people made CDs out of it and sold it and brought it to the Tower Records, if you're old enough to remember that. Yeah. That only happened because you were given a recording advance to be able to live off and, and more advanced to make the music in the studio. None of that happens anymore. And then, people, artists like us, because there hasn't been any alternative until Web3, put our stuff up there on the streamers and get paid nickels, right? Right. Single digit thousands of dollars. It never even covers the cost of making the records, right? Unless you get huge. And when you get huge, the math's different for anyone. Yeah. But indie artists used to be able to make a living prior to that era, right? Right. Selling out of their trunks. Who am I thinking of? I'm thinking of, MC Hammer was a discussion just the other day. What's good about streaming and DistroKid, let's just say as a platform to be able to release your music, if you're an indie artist and nobody really knows about you yet, or you're just starting out, it's a very big gift to be able to release it. If somebody's listening to your music all the time, they should pay a $10 a month stipend for, if you have 50 people like that love your music, that's 500, right? $500. Yeah. What's wrong with that? Or you get a couple hundred and then you're actually making a living, right? So
yeah,
yes, that would be nice. Or, we could continue trying to push on some things that several of us indie musicians have been doing, which is minting these NFTs and finding the fans and saying, okay, you like what I do, you want to support it, you want me to keep doing it.
Yeah.
Pay 10, 50, $100 here and there. And, you get some super fans who'll pay a couple thousand because they really like an artist.
Yeah.
And that starts adding up. And there was about a year and a half there, as we saw, there were a couple of big artists who were making some serious money doing that. And that may come around again. A lot of it was tied to that craze around NFTs, Bored Apes, all those, those digital collectibles people were collecting, that were more like Pokemon cards. They didn't really have any value. The project owners who made these things were promising a lot of value and almost never delivering. But unlike that with music, there's intrinsic value in just the actual music itself. And then most of the artists who did that would attach it to a visual kind of collection and sometimes gamify the collection. So if you got a really rare one, like a Pokemon kind of idea, that you would maybe get more back from the artist. Right?
Yeah.
You would get some utility they would offer you. You could be on their little, inner fan club or their, what they call their inner council and help them direct their career. And in some cases, some of the musicians, like our friend Violetta, she does a weekly concert on Zoom for anyone who's bought even one.
Are you sure we haven't met? 'Cause it feels like we're connected.
In any of her collections, and some of those things only cost $20, $30. She tends to charge really luxe prices, and it's in the hundreds of dollars sometimes for her NFTs. But doesn't matter with all of her collectors. She'll just come and perform. She'll do requests, and you just get on a Zoom, and she'll have dozens to hundreds of her fans there.
Yeah, I've been there and have been just so welcome. It's amazing because you get to see her face to face. Now, this is the Italian singer-songwriter, everybody, on the blockchain who sold one of her songs last year, not the rights to her song, just the collectible.
The audio and a visual.
Right, for 1 Bitcoin, which at the time I think was like $67,000. And then it went up to like 100,000. It went over 100,000. How amazing. I think that she's phenomenal. What an amazing singer-songwriter. I'm hoping to have her on this show.
Violetta Zeroni, she treats it kind of as a fine arts project.
And
everything she does. And, she's actually Italian, though she lives in the States now. And being European, I think there's slightly different mentality about some of these things. It's almost like a slow food kind of idea, of, slow food movement. No big rush, not trying to hit things and, hit 1 billion people. She's not trying to be Taylor Swift, right?
Right.
For other artists, they might want to be gigging more popular, playing to bigger crowds. They can price their music differently, though. That's the great thing. Back to the Web3 conversation. You want to sell your songs for $10 a song, and you want to sell a few hundred of them, per release. That still the numbers will add up.
Speaking of music, we have some of your songs here today. I'd love to run one of these, actually all of them. We've got If This Goes On, Cradle to the Grave, and Peace on Earth. Are these songs that are already NFTs?
As you mentioned at the top, I've written a musical. That is in early production now. So the musical's basically done, the script, the music and everything. Started writing it years ago, finished it years ago, recorded the demos for it during lockdown and released a concept album in 2022.
Awesome.
It's called Judgment Day. It's about the end of the world. I was really freaked out about what the state of the world 20 years ago when I started thinking of this show.
Yeah.
It's only gotten worse. Here we are. The world's crazy. So I really felt like I needed to release that. So I put the record out, and then I started thinking about how I was going to get people listening, how I was going to fund it as a live show. I picture this as a live stage show, like a musical theater.
Yes.
It's rock and roll. It's a rock opera. And so I did launch an NFT collection for it. And the first song is in that NFT collection. I dropped one song for the first drop. So that was released 100 pieces of music, the same song with this different graphics. So depending, you'd go in and you hit the min button and you would get a different picture. And that went really well and minted pretty fast, the first 100 songs. And then I did another drop over a year ago, and then NFT sales across the board just started sort of tanking. So that's gone much slower, and I ended up just now capping the supply of that. So there'll be 100 editions of this newer one, which has 4 different songs in it. So, we can get into the details on that. But back to this is a musical. I did put this in an NFT collection, but the goal of this and the money I raised so far from selling the NFTs is to use all that money to turn it into a live show. And I've started to do that. I actually did like a table read with hired cast. So let me set the stage. All right. So the story of Judgment Day is this guy, Thomas Judge. He's like freaked out about everything in the world. He's kind of a cynic. He's like really, he hates humanity. And he's like, we're just stupid. We're going to destroy each other. We're going to blow each other up. You know, look at all the bad news you see every day, just all the awful stuff, right? And the song, you know, I picture it with a kind of montage of the ugly news of the day kind of thing as he's singing it. And he opens the musical singing this. The whole overall plot is then he meets this really religious woman and they fall in love. So they have this nice little conversation and you got your male and your female lead, which is great for musical theater. Ultimately, the world is enslaved by the Antichrist. It's kind of based on the Christian book of the Revelation idea.
Yes.
And everyone dies at the end except for him. He'll sing to you about it and what he's learned in his, you know, sort of spiritual journey through the show. So what we're hearing now, if this goes on, is the opening number to Judgment Day.
All right.
Thomas in his loft in Manhattan, just singing to nobody in particular, bitching about the world.
All right, let's go. Here we go. If this goes on.
If this goes on. If this goes on, I tell you how it will be. If this goes on, I foresee catastrophe. If this goes on, it's the end for you and me. If this goes on, it's the end of history. Terror in the skies, politics and lies, private enterprise, open up your eyes, poisoning the well, one-way trip to hell, that's no way to live, something's got to give. If this goes on, seaman's inhumanity. If this goes on, coming soon to your TV. If this goes on, murder is their specialty. If this goes on, reason is the casualty. Churches make the rules, states will play the fools, forces of control, fighting for your soul, not to be denied. God is on their side. Muslim, Christian, or Jew, not to get in trouble too. Drive us blind if this goes on. this goes on.
Epic. Something's got to give. Let's go. The ending is just so symphonic and like it's amazing. I love it.
So that's all orchestra. So again, this is a rock opera. So there's a live band plus, I'm picturing a, God help me, 30-piece orchestra if we
Let's
get
go.
Yeah.
So
and again, just imagine he starts out singing alone on stage, but then, dancers come out. They're wearing like plague masks or balaclavas or something, and they're going kind of wild by the end. And you hear that orchestra come in at the end.
Should be on the
comes back and like slumps in his chair again, and he's either flicking channels or scrolling through Twitter, like doom scrolling, right?
Right, or just like puts the VR on and is just like living in a peaceful world, which would be a transition to like.
Maybe we'll direct that. Oh my God. Maybe it'll be like that. I love that idea.
So I was going to say that, that should be the opening of the Grammys. I mean, like you're talking about a stage show fit for, the best of the best. How often do Grammys really focus on the best of the best? They try, I suppose, with what they have.
Try.
Yeah, they do pretty great. I mean, there's been, I'll never forget seeing Lauryn Hill in the late 90s,
well, look, from your lips to God's ears, Vessi. I mean, here's the thing. If this show goes off the way I would envision it, at some point, then a Broadway cast recording or however it finally hits a stage would be a Grammy eligible thing. And it's possible that thing you just said could happen.
Yeah, I would love to see it happen. I love rock operas. I was in a band called the Lovesick Lunatics back in LA, my first Los Angeles band. And I felt like every song we did kind of just tied together and ultimately was this rock opera. I'm all into rock operas. And of course, the Rocky Horror Picture Show, which I ended up seeing in LA, which I'll never forget. I mean, they got us all up on stage. I don't know. I think we might have taken some clothes off. I don't remember what happened. Actually, I just remember
young again.
It was fun. I just remember it was fun. Yeah.
Nice.
Queen, if you think about the kind of band, I mean, that has like Queen vibes right there, It's phenomenal.
I mean, that's my real happy place. I mean, I love, this is all kind of rooted in 90s alt rock with stuff you're hearing now, because I wrote this in the early 2000s. But I came up with like glam rock and that sort of really pompous 70s rock and roll of like, Bowie and Queen and all that stuff.
Just the best.
I love the grandiose stuff like that.
Me too. So, I mean, you could you want to play the main character.
I'm getting a little old for that, I think. I mean, I am the main character on the cast recording. I envision Thomas as like in his 30s, maybe early 40s, kind of nerdy, kind of a techie, maybe.
Do you have someone in mind? Do you have someone in mind? Is somebody, any actors? Yeah,
I can't say. Yeah, there's a couple of people I got.
Okay.
And I got a seriously fun choice in mind for the Antichrist, and a couple of ideas for Maggie, who's more like a African American gospel church type of person. I'm starting to do using some AI art tools and to build a trailer for the show to get investors. And I'm envisioning these people, and it's really starting to come together. I'm doing the image generation as stills, but then I've got someone I'm working with who's a video editor. And they can take one still image now and animate it and get them singing and get the camera moving around it. It's kind of stunning what can happen, which is
what are you
using
for
the visual effects industry. Yeah, Runway, Sora. There's a bunch of tools out there that guys using. I'm using Midjourney to make my still images right now.
You said for the visual effects, peoples. Now they've had a long time at the behest of the world ultimately to create with. So I mean, we have to keep moving and growing and becoming.
We got to keep moving, and I couldn't afford it if I had to pay a VFX team. So that's the reality of it. As an independent, I can now do this for a small budget, where that would have been like a $500,000 budget just to do visual effects.
And why should that stand in anybody's way? It's always been the precursor to like who won wasn't there a film that just won like all the awards? Aura, what was it called?
I think there was an AI short that won something. Absolutely, a friend was just telling me about it. I'll go back and get the reference. Maybe we can put it in some notes for the show. Yeah. So believe me, I'm all for that, but I'm also a hypocrite, because when people are saying, "Oh, I could be a musician now," I'm like, MF for put in your 1,000 hours per instrument of practice. Come and talk to me. I don't even want to hear that, or I don't want to. I certainly don't want to use AI tools to write my songs. But again, even within music, I'm a hypocrite, because AI is replacing a lot of producer tasks that I would otherwise be paying people for. So
that's not hypocrisy. Yeah. It's just a matter of knowing the tools that are out there. And you're a tech guy. I mean, you're also, you know, is a metaverse and virtual reality pioneer. So tell me more about how that, like.
That's wild. I love music, and I was in music school at Berklee College of Music in Boston. And then I was like, you know, I don't need to go to school for this. I love making music. I need to get a job. So then I went and got a computer science degree at the University of Massachusetts, and I ended up having a 30-year career in the computer industry.
Wow.
And most of that was around creating 3D graphics for the internet. So yeah, I'm a bit of a pioneer on technologies for making 3D run in a browser. I invented some file format to do that in the 90s. It was way too early, but a lot of those lessons came back around. And about 10 years ago, a little more, I got involved in a project to create something called GLTF, which is the 3D file format everybody uses to put like spinnable models or, you know, whole virtual scenes in a browser. So if you go into Decentraland, for example, or one of these kind of metaverse websites, all of that stuff is based on a standard that I wrote. There was like a 4-person team designing this. I was just doing it as an independent because I believe in this stuff. So yeah, I built tech for the metaverse. And then I went on to be an executive at Unity, the game engine company, for 6 years.
Wow.
Doing VR and AR for them when the VR boom was full on, the consumer VR boom, when, you know, after Facebook bought Oculus, you know, before they rebranded to Meta, everyone was building VR stuff, AR stuff. The game industry was like on fire. And I ended up being part of that for 6 years at Unity, and then quit Unity to go pursue music again. And that was like 3 years ago. But then I took a side trip and was the first executive hire at a company called Lamina One, which was founded by this guy, Neil Stevenson. He wrote a book called Snow Crash, which coined the term metaverse. So if younger people know the novel or the movie Ready Player One, yes, it was basically a redux of all of those same ideas from 28 years before that, 25 years before that, in this novel Snow Crash. So Neil, who lives in Seattle, and he also wrote a novel called Cryptonomicon, by the way, and predicted crypto. So we're living in his world. He predicted the metaverse and crypto. He founded a company with a Bitcoin bazillionaire. It's called Lamina One, and they hired me to help them figure out product. And I did that for like a year and a half. But then it was like, you know, this is great, but I'm sick of tech. I have to go back and do it. But my whole career has been around tech. Yeah, no, it's great.
Wow.
But now I'm still doing that stuff, but I'm doing it now as an artist and content creator. So I'm making stuff using those tools, and that will come into play when I get Judgment Day produced. There will also be online stuff. There will be VR companion pieces, you know, digital collectibles that have 3D in them, you know, NFTs, more NFTs, and so on. So yeah, these two threads of my life, which I'd separated, have kind of converged now, and consider to be my third act.
Totally.
But you know what gets me up every day is not metaversey stuff. It's making music and making art and hanging out with people like you.
Tony, I'm so glad you're here today. Thank you. Wow, this is like insane. Your story is insane, and I think you know, I'm just grateful that you're here. Thank you for being my guest today. You're watching episode 1 of season 7 of The Music Train. Shout out to co-founder, my partner and mentor, Mr. BK Han, out of Singapore. Without him, the show wouldn't exist. The show was born on Connect Club. Don't stop. Love, peace, NFTs all day, all night. On the music train, go insane in a good way. 4, 3, 2, 1, let's say the day. Peace, love. Don't fight, don't stop. So season 1 of The Music Train, Tony, is all NFTs of songs I wrote on the spot in Connect Club. So they're not very long. They're like 5 minutes or whatever. But do you teach at all? I feel like you would be an amazing teacher.
Teach music?
Anything. Do you hold master classes?
Yeah, I mean, I used to do a lot of seminar kind of work around 3D tech. I've written 3 programming books, additionally, about 3D graphics and VR.
Tell me about those. What are the titles?
So it's for O'Reilly and Associates, which is the biggest, like, I think it's one of the biggest tech publishers in the world. For all those programming books you get, they have animals on the cover, these line-drawn animals. You may have seen them if you're ever shopping for tech books. And they were about WebGL, which is how you make 3D in your browser, and not the file format, GLTF. If you look me up, my author name on Amazon, there are 3 books I've published. So WebGL Up and Running is the first one. And that was a primer on how to make 3D in your browser, like by writing JavaScript code. Very rudimentary, like simple 110 pages in a short book. And then the next one was like, Kill Me Now. Why did I even suggest it to the publisher? The book went so well. It's like, I'm going to write another one. We're going to go in depth. We're going to do 400 pages. And then I spent like 6 months making examples and doing all this stuff. And book publishing is hard. I still get a couple $100 here and there from O'Reilly. Like 10 years later, every month something shows up.
That's nice.
That was called Programming 3D Applications in HTML5 and WebGL.
Okay.
And then Still Being Insane, or they maybe came to me at this point and said, oh, VR's taken off. Now it's like 2016 or something. Do you want to do a primer on VR? And I did. It was called Learning Virtual Reality. And that was more like how you take the Unity game engine and how you build stuff. And I had a web chapter too, but it was mostly about using a game engine like Unity, how you build it, how you get it in the headset to test it, some programming examples I made up. So, I did that for like 5 years. It has bracketed 5 years from like 2011 to 2016. I was writing books.
So these 3 books essentially for somebody, a normie as they call it, that doesn't really know anything about coding.
If you're a developer at any level, beginning, intermediate, or expert, you will enjoy these books and learn how to create 3D for the web browsers and virtual reality for the masses. So it is developer oriented, but I would say that in all of them, I'm pretty good at this part. The first 2 or 3 chapters that give you the overview of what is about to happen are for a lay audience. Anybody can understand this. So even when I'm writing for programmers, I don't just start by slapping code on the screen. It really starts with the concepts and why. Why do you care about this? That's people need that. Right?
What a gift to give to people that they can actually go out and get that book and find out more and learn as a new person, as a lay person, as you said. So, I mean, you're like an extraordinary human being. You're also a family man. You have an amazing family that now have been brought up with music and tech. And shout out to your family. Thank you for making time for us today.
My wife, Marina Berlin, is an amazing sculptor, as well as a 2D, painter and artist who did all the art for my NFT collections.
Oh, wow.
Our son, Lucian, is in grad school at UC Santa Barbara, where he's doing a media and technology program, and he's an equal part artist, musician, and he's coding too. So, and in his program, they have an immersive dome called the Allosphere. You walk through it on a sky bridge, and you're in this 3-story projection dome. So he's making immersive content and spatial audio, 3D audio with sounds above you and behind you and everywhere.
This is sounding like Vegas.
Master's program. It's like a mini version of the Vegas sphere.
Maybe they were inspired.
I think they were. So it's wild. I'm really excited about this. Yeah. So Lucian is my son, is doing really great with that too. So that's the family. Yeah. And it does connect to the next story. This song is a protest song. It is called Cradle to Grave. What happened was Marina and I were getting really, really upset. And what really led to this was the state of Texas passing really regressive abortion laws at the end of 2022, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. End of 2021. I'm losing track of the timeline. Anyway, and we conceived of this idea, and I think I came up with the name Cradle to Grave because this is a state where you can open carry and kill people at a school, but, you can't have control over your own body as a woman, right? So we were getting real, and we live in the Bay Area, and we're very, we're not leftist, but we're progressive politically. I would say we're pretty centrist. Yeah. So, that kind of stuff really bothers us. So what ended up happening is that we were swimming in these ideas for a while, and then Marina came up with a sculpture. She makes wire sculptures, these insane things out of chicken wire by hand. She created a mobile of little babies and machine guns, and they were floating around and painted them like playground colors, schoolhouse, like grammar school colors. It's super chilling piece. And I conceived of this song, Cradle to Grave, that I was going to originally perform at this art show down in LA. And I ended up not performing it and not recording it for various reasons. And, I wanted her piece to speak for itself, in fact. Yeah. And so she launched that piece. But then what then happened was the first year anniversary. This is right. Yeah. So I think it was 2022 when this all happened, because the Texas school shooting in Uvalde had happened and a bunch of little kids were killed, and it was just horrible. And I decided the anniversary was coming up in May of 2023, and I decided I needed to release this song, and it was my Genesis NFT. It was my first NFT. So Marina made some really chilling 2D art to go with it, which you're not going to see here, but you'll see if you look this up on the website, of babies and guns. And again, really whimsical, but it's terrifying. So I minted on Manifold, the minting site. May 24th, I think, was the first anniversary of this Uvalde shooting. And the song is basically about babies and guns in Texas. And this is not part of the musical. This is just singer-songwriter stuff.
And this is available only on your website right now. And as an NFT, can people
no,
still
I actually, you
can't
get the NFT. That's sold out.
Oh, done. Okay. All right.
That's sold out. And with Marina's art. But what you can do is you can hear this on Spotify, Apple Music.
Wonderful. So we want people to follow you. Yeah. We want people to follow
me on
you.
Any of those streamers, please.
Yes. Okay. Let's go. Here we go. Cradle to the Grave. Tony Parisi. Here we go with this intense and very true story about how reality shapes our music.
Woke up this morning, and now my day is done. Turned on the TV, another 21. How can we live like this? How can we go on? It's cradle to grave, and everyone is numb. Congratulations on a job well done. You got your freedom, you got 'em on the run. Let's make more babies and give each one a gun. Well, it's cradle to grave, we're losing everyone. We are the soldiers of our own misfortune, praying for everyone and praying on the weak. Haven't they told you the whole world is watching? A mindless self-destruction, even as we speak. How are you, Texas? Does that star shine bright? No one protects us, but God is on your side. What are you thinking? What gives you the right? When it's cradle to grave, how can you sleep at night? How can we take it? How can we go on? How can we live like this another 21? How can we take it? How can we go on? How can we live like this another 21?
Really quite beautiful. How can we take it? I believe was the lyric. Correct.
Yeah. I mean, this is what we do as artists, right? When we're in the zone, we hold a mirror up, we channel our feelings and then, get people to think about what matters. Just really love that song. But that one is just so emotional and intense. And by the way, I played everything on that too. I'm a multi-instrumentalist, and I really dug into like getting the vibe of that song. I realized that was my Ohio.
Yeah.
Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. Like,
totally.
This, like, I'd written
hits.
It broke
like
that song, and it just really sad as all hell, right? And I mean, Neil Young is one of my major influences. So I don't know if you want to dive into any of that, but like,
I would love to.
You're a songwriter, you're an artist. I mean, it's hard to talk. I don't want to geek out too much on process, but when I listen to that again, and every time I listen to it, I just think about the journey of writing it, like what inspired it. So Cradle to Grave came from a place of frustration, I would say. My wife Marina and I, and she's a sculptor, we were talking about all this stuff going on in America where abortion rights were at risk, but little kids would go into schools and get shot up, and we were just frustrated. We were thinking, this is not pro-life, this might be pro-birth, but it's just not. This is not what life should be about. Kids should not be afraid to go into schools, and it was all those emotions that dug in and led to the writing of Cradle to Grave. And I think most likely the idea of Cradle to Grave happened first, the title, again, and which is a marketing term. If you're familiar with it, if you know marketing terms, it's the idea of getting a customer when they're young and having them for their whole life, right? In this case, that's a very short journey for these unfortunate kids and their families. And so I think that vibe came first, and then I'm sure I sat down and plunked out an E minor chord, and it came from there. I started just exploring a very simple chord progression. And if you are, aware of any musical theory, going from an A chord to a major chord to then an A minor as part of the progression really kind of drops the mood even further and saddens it. So that's sort of where the structure of that came from. And I had this song I thought completely written. And then I went into the studio to record it, and I realized it needed some kind of bridge, but it ended up being over the same chords. But there's this whole middle section where I made the lyrics up on the spot. I was literally at my recording workstation, Logic. I was sitting there recording. I was like, needs another part. And that's when I just blurted out, we're the soldiers of our own misfortune. If you know the term Soldier of Fortune, it used to be a magazine. It might still be around, folks who are big into their guns and prepper type people. And it just felt so right. It's like, okay, here we are. We're fetishizing, militarization and guns and all that, but to what end? We can't keep our kids safe. So that section just kind of came out along with real 70s kind of jazz organ, gospel-y sounding organ, and this whining plaintive guitar. So, songwriting process-wise, it went through these three stages where it was really that phrase I hung on to, and then this chord progression, which then dictated how the melody and lyrics would come out, finally culminating in the arrangement that you heard. And that's, I don't know what I'd liken it to. I suppose it's like a painting or a sculpture. You might start with a drawing, and then you might lay some paint on, but it takes a while for the whole thing to emerge. So in this case, at least, it's not always the case with all the songs I write, but this one was not calculated. It came from some other place, and I let it flow out.
It hit. All your songs do, honestly. Every song I've ever heard from you. I mean, I love songs. I love songwriting. I love that we're able to put this emotional catharsis that ends up happening when we find out some realities in the world that we're just like, what do I do with this? Like, what do I do with this?
Vessi, like, when I hear your music, sometimes it's just you and the guitar. A lot of your stuff is really simple recordings, right?
Absolutely.
And you paint pictures with it. You always create a world to inhabit. When I listen, I'm transported when I hear your voice. Right?
If I let go enough, if I'm holding on too tight, then it's not so easy for me to even transport. Just yesterday, I was on a AI space with Asia and a bunch of other people. John Nosta was in there. There were some, Robert Scoble. Probably these people's names are familiar to you in the AI world, but I was asked to write something on the spot about just the sacredity. Is that a word? Sacredity. You said fetish. What did you say about fetish and guns, by the way? It was a word.
Fetishizing.
Fetishizing. Militarization. I mean, those things. I mean, you have,
Sacredity is fine. It's a new word. You made it up.
Sacredity. It sounds like lucidity, and lucidity is an AI thing, isn't a lucidity an AI thing? Yeah. So I did this. I started to do it, and I was like, you literally have to let go of what you're going to say right now. If you're going to like write, if somebody said, I want you to write this right now on stage, since that's what you're known, in the moment, you were talking about when you let go. Vulnerable is the word. How often as a songwriter have you felt vulnerable?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I must say it's probably been only the last 10 years or so where I feel like I'm in a good flow as a songwriter, where regardless of, again, where the origin of the song comes from or what the intent is, I can craft a good song that's got the right combination of emotion and hook that will stay with people, and maybe had the craft, which is more of the left brain, calculated part. Whereas when I was younger, I was way over calculated about it. I was thinking too hard about it. Right? So, I mean, I'd say most of the songs on Judgment Day aren't over calculated. They really came, the musical, they really came from another place, and that's going back 20 years. But as someone who's now steadily been doing it, I'd say I'm in a flow now, and I can just write songs and I can be a little more unrestrained about it, and then afterwards, but it took a while to get comfortable to do that.
Because you have to literally like lay down all your insecurities and just kind of see what it is that you know about whatever the subject matter is, and decide at that moment that you're not going to actually be attached to how you're perceived if you should let some words go that you're not planning on. Tony Parisi in the house today with episode 1 of season 7 of The Music Train. We're going to have Megan Baker. Speaking of gospel singers, speaking of amazing singers and songwriters, Megan Baker will be our guest too for season 7.
But I know that we've been brought together for a greater purpose. And so
tell us about the bands you've been in or started.
The band that I was in that was probably the most formative for me was a band called My Hip.
Nice.
It was a post-punk band from the 80s, from my college days, with 4 other really amazing musicians. One of them went on to do some really big things in the music industry for a long time. Everyone else did other things. I mean, someone else is involved in music publishing still. Other folks went off and did other things like professors and chefs and whatever. They changed careers. But that was really good because that was insane, like college. And we were all in music school too, so we were like breaking all the rules. So we were like
fun.
Super jazzy, crazy, but still post-punk.
And you went to
college music. Yeah.
How amazing! Did you?
They
have
were
to
all
audition?
doing jazz. They were in that place today. I probably did have to audition. I forgot. It's been so long ago. But they were super into like really, really kind of goofy. Like it was traditional jazz. And if you wanted to do something that was like punk rock or like really experimental, like Zappa level jazz or something, they didn't even want to hear it, So we were doing some really crazy stuff with pop songwriting kind of sprinkled in. So everyone that was into it, like we wanted to be a pop band, but we were really a crazy experimental.
Did you do records?
We did some records. We dusted them off, and we've actually like re-recorded some newer songs.
I would love to hear that. I really would.
Yeah.
Because it
has. But it sounds so naive now. I mean, when songs you write in your like early 20s, come on. I mean,
but you have to start somewhere, as Guru Mook says. If you don't start somewhere, you'll end up nowhere. I'm quoting her on that, but that's true. Like if you don't start somewhere. So the point is that there's a whole, generation that are wanting to hear that, to remember or to know what that was like for your generation.
The first real great song I think I wrote that has lasted, that I did revisit, was a rock anthem not connected to the show called Judgment Day. I ended up pulling that out of a drawer, and it is the title song of my rock opera. It's the finale number.
Okay.
And it's totally awesome. And people are going to go, I have to get the record on streamers and listen to it. And I had written most of the song and the lyrics 10 years before I started writing the musical.
So cool.
So that song is decades old now, and it still holds up, and it's great.
And it served as the inspiration. Would you say that it somehow served as the remember?
Where it slotted in. I was like, I'm writing a musical about the end of the world. Where's the story going? Then I'm like, oh my God, there's that song that's been in a drawer for 10 years called Judgment Day. And it ends up being the capstone of the show. And it's such a great tune.
I love it.
We're not going to share it today, but go listen to it. Oh, I would have ended up, we're going to do one more song, I think, right, Vessi? And I would have ended
absolutely.
with that, but I really want people to hear this other song because it's also a great song and it's super fun and positive.
Yay.
And it's one happy song out of the show.
Usually before we end the show, I write one on the spot with a couple words from you. Here we go. A song on the spot with Tony Parisi. Give it to me.
Here we go. Take that piece of wire. Make something great, unexpected. Now is the time.
Take that piece of wire, so unexpected. Now is the time. Don't deflect it. Take my hand in yours. Walk the line. Walk over time. It's a word, it's a long road full of love. Hey, who are you?
Awesome. Oh my God.
I'm not even
You're
sure.
really
What,
good at that.
you gave me great
All right,
lyrics to start with.
Let's mint that one. Let's go. I love it.
Okay. Yes, let's go. All right. So we have one more song here. We've got, it's called Peace on Earth, featuring
The incredible Mela B. So let me set it up a little bit.
who's going to be on the show. Episode 4. I cannot believe I got you both this season. I'm just like, let's go.
Yeah, met Mela B. I think I started following her probably about 3 years ago on Twitter. It's like, who's that interesting looking bald chick? And then I started listening to her and like, oh my God, she has a voice from another planet.
She's
It's
so
a whole
good.
planet. It's got its own zip code, like incredible voice.
The Metaverse.
The Metaverse, yeah.
Yes.
Oh my God. And then I started, going to spaces with her. She was not active on X for a while, and then she came back. She took a little break. And then we got to know each other, and we're like, oh my God. So then I start co-hosting the show with her. And I humbly asked her on one of the spaces, put her right on the spot.
Live?
Yeah, like put her right on the spot. If she would be interested in collabing with me. I had this great song, and I had a singer who did a decent job on it for the record, but I was never quite happy with her take. But the thing is, sometimes when you get going on these things, like I wanted her to re-record it, and then she got COVID and was unavailable for like 2 months or something.
Oh no!
A woman named Eva, she's great, but I was like, I think I need to re-record this, and I just felt I'd fallen in love with Mela's voice. So I'm like, would you be interested in that? And she said yes. So she is. It's a male and female lead back and forth thing. It's a duo song. So again, this is also part of Judgment Day. It's not been dropped as part of the NFT collection yet. Mm-hmm. It is the opening number to Act 2. What we think is going on is the world has turned a corner. We're about to get rid of all of our irrational behaviors, and we're now following a new humanist way of being, and we're headed into an era of peace and prosperity because this super being has come along named the One, and he's going to save us, right? So that's kind of effectively what's going on in the plot. So now picture. It's kind of like that Coca-Cola commercial, if you're familiar with it from the 1970s. I'd like to buy the world a Coke. This vibe of a bunch of hippie people on a hillside singing happy stuff. And that's how Act 2 of Judgment Day opens. After that, the whole show goes to hell and everything gets really bad. But there's this ironic moment at the beginning, and it is this beautiful song, which if you tear it away from the show, so it's done totally ironically in the context of the show, but if you tear it away from the show, it is this very happy, beautiful sentiment wishing for peace on earth that I've actually released a single version of every Christmas since the album came out, because it's a great Christmas song too. So every year I reshare it and say, like, let's wish everyone peace on earth during the Christmas season, right?
Yes.
Obviously. And may it happen. So with that, here it is.
Here it is, guys. Peace on Earth with Tony Parisi, live from Metatron Studios.
Don't disappoint us, the voice is calling. It'll get you to united in mind, together at last. And now that it's here, there's no turning back. Wake up, the sun is shining, a light is dawning upon our world. Look up, the skies are clearing, the clouds are leaving forevermore. The wait is over, the time has come for all the nations to be as one, and we will witness a great rebirth, and soon there shall be peace on earth. 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 Peace on earth.
What a perfect, beautiful. I love it. If only you say, I don't know. I'm thinking big things here. Peace on earth. I mean, we could make it, right? You did it right there. You made it. What an amazing song. I love that song. Where can people find it? Is it on streaming platforms? Is it
Yes,
on
it is.
iTunes, Spotify? So it's out there under your name, correct? Tony Parisi. And also on
That's right. There's a couple of editions of Peace on Earth. So if you're looking for me on the streamers, use my name and Melabee, Melabeee. That's the version you're going to want to hear that we just heard. I'm about to re-release the entire Judgment Day album, and then so the other versions won't be there anymore. But for now, there's, just so you don't get confused by some other version of the song. That's the re-recording with Mela. And yeah, it's on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, and YouTube Music.
She did amazing, and the production's amazing, and it's like hair. It's I mean, it's huge. It's Peace on Earth. There you go. That's what it sounds like. That's what it feels like. That's what it is. It's that feeling, guys. Stay with that feeling. Thank you so much for being my guest today on the Music Train. Mr. BK Han and I are so grateful that you're here. Tony, I hope you'll visit us again. And I'd love to just get into a meeting with you to talk about what we can do together. Any way that Music Train can support you and your endeavors, we'd love to just promote you. And you guys follow Tony Parisi at tonyparisi.com and also at Aura Deluxe on X. What are some lasting words that we can part with for those out there willing to take the plunge now in this AI revolution, evolution, now that you can create just with a little prompt of an idea on X, on Grok, on ChatGPT, a whole lyric that you could essentially record as a voice memo if you'll only open up your voice and allow yourself to sing it.
Yeah, I mean, everything I'm going to say is probably going to sound a little trite, but it's tried and true. First is you got to follow whatever that inner voice is you have. Whatever is speaking to you that you want to express, that is the art that people are going to care about. That's the stuff that's going to stick. That's the stuff that's going to last. Sure, if you want to approach songwriting as a craft and make things that just make people happy, and you want to calculate that and do that, that's valid as well. But if you want to approach it from an artist standpoint, and you also want to get something back out of it yourself in terms of your own personal development, then I think it's much better rule to follow that inner voice you have. That would be the first thing I would say. So like whatever's compelling you, whether again it's this idea like I was talking about with the writing of Cradle to Grave, that there's something that disturbs you so much, or something you want to celebrate so much, or something you're sad about, any of those things, follow that emotion and listen to that voice. That's definitely, I would say, advice piece of advice number one. The second would be, and Bessie and I talked about this a little bit, there's no substitute for grinding through it and making things that you don't like, that you're going to look back on and you're not happy with. I mean, some of this is just trial and error and practice, and there isn't a replacement for a lot of that. And no prompting at an AI is going to instantly make you an amazing artist. Like, put the work in, put the time in. And then I'd say the third thing is, if all of that's going well and you're starting to make stuff that you really enjoy, then it goes back and it circles back to the first thing I said, but it's following your voice about where you want to take it professionally or as a career. It's good to read up. It's good to listen to advice from a lot of people, but don't let anybody tell you what to do if they're telling you to do something different than you want to do with your art. It's just like, don't let them tell you what kind of songs to make. This is what the industry does. This is what record labels do. This is even what the algorithm does on streaming services. You have to make a certain kind of song or no one's going to hear it or won't get discovered by the algorithm. Don't do that. Follow the stuff you want. I mean, unless you're just going for it completely commercially, again, that's valid. If you want to approach this as an artist, though, listen to that inner voice and do the work. There's no substitute for that.
Let's go. I love it. I co-sign that. You've been listening to Music Train. I want to almost give you the host job of this show. I just love that so much. If you're looking to take over a streaming show, I
need a guest host. I love.
I'd give you Music Train guest host, or just you find, hey, I really want to spotlight this artist, and I want them to be on Music Train. You have the show, and we'll get them in season 8. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Tony, you're amazing. I'm just so
You're
happy.
amazing.
I love your music. I love your style. I love that you work with your wife musically, artistically, your family. You just sound like you got it down, and we're really glad that you're here today. Rock on, everybody. Thank you again to all the sponsors. Thank you so much. And to the listeners, without you, we wouldn't have a show. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week with Megan Baker for episode 2 of the Music Train. I'm going to close this out with an amazing song you've never heard before, Tony. I don't think you've heard this one. This is from a guest that I had on the show. Her name is Susie Williams, and she did this amazing... Now tell me that I still have that here. Yes, it's called The Great Secret by Hafiz. Check it out, guys. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We'll see you next time. This is Vessi and Tony saying bye. Nanu, nanu. Can you do it? Yes, you can. Here we go.
God was full of wine last night, so very full of wine, that he let a great secret slip, a great important secret slip. He was so very full of wine, and he said, there is no one on this earth who needs a pardon from me, for there is really no such thing. I say that there is no such thing, for there is really no such thing as sin. The beloved, he has gone completely wild. He has poured himself into me, and I am blissful, drunk and overflowing. Oh, needs a pardon from me. For there is really no such thing. I said that there is no such thing. For there is really no such thing as sin.